Well, we're over 9 months into the pandemic, and finally a glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel in hopes of a potential vaccine. Pfizer announcing promising news with their leading vaccine candidate, but a lot of people still have a lot of questions. Our Sydney Stallworth sat down with an expert to see if this trial will change anything anytime soon and what expectations you should have at home.
Yes, we've gotten good news, but that doesn't change the situation where we are right now.
Dr. Neil Lamb is the Vice President of Educational Outreach at the HudsonAlpha Institute for Biotechnology. He explains what this news from Pfizer on the success of their phase 3 vaccine trial actually means.
This study enrolled almost 44,000 individuals around the globe. Half the individuals received the vaccine. That's 2 doses, 3 weeks apart. Half of the individuals received 2 doses of the placebo, which is saline, which is salt water. And I think lots of people are excited because the effectiveness rate appears to be so high. 90% is almost best case scenario.
But Dr. Lamb says there's still a long way to go, especially to ensure the vaccine is safe.
Pfizer has said that they are going to run the study until half of the people that are enrolled have been followed for at least 2 months after their last injection. Even if a drug comes to approval immediately, it's still going to be weeks and in some cases months before you and I are rolling up our sleeves actually getting that injection.
And he says we could be hearing a lot from different companies in the near future.
We're not going to have one vaccine and that's it. We're going to need a whole slate of vaccines.
Some might be nervous to take a vaccine once it becomes available.
I completely understand why individuals might have vaccine hesitancy. Yes, this has moved rapidly, but it's moved rapidly because we've been able to use funding to really springboard previous research.
But Dr. Lamb says the FDA is monitoring safety risks extremely closely, and people shouldn't worry about participating in vaccine trials. Dr. Lamb actually has a series of videos on all things coronavirus. They're posted on Hudson Alpha's Beyond the Blog webpage. You can find the link to those videos and more information on vaccine trials that are going on right here in Alabama, all on RocketCityNow.com. Putting the Valley first, Sydney Stallworth, WZDX News.